Today I'm going to walk you through some watercolor sketchbook exploration that I've just done recently. And I'm going to walk you through how I planned out my color palette here and figured out what colors would go together and how they would mix. And then working through some different styles of abstract art. And I hope you enjoy these. Okay, I've totally been procrastinating on painting lately. I decided I'm removing excuses today and just going to create another simple watercolor abstract, really just not even really trying to make art. I pulled out a few Daniel Smith Watercolor Sticks. I'm not 100% sure these are the ones I wanted to use. Got 2 jars of water here. I'm going to swatch and play with my paint selections here. And then on this page that I've taped is where I'm going to do some like abstract-y pattern type practice just to try to get those brush miles in for today. Got a Princeton Neptune round brush size 8. And let's see how we go. This color here is one of my favorites, Indenthrone Blue by Daniel Smith. Love it. It's a lovely, strong blue. Just wetting the brush, and with these Daniel Smith watercolor sticks, you can it's just basically like having a pan of watercolor. So I'm just pulling the pigment off the end of the stick. Now, another color that I really like is this cobalt teal blue. It's not as strong as the Indenthrone Blue. I thought they might look nice together. I'm just bumping them up to see how they mix. Now what happens if I mix them? It's like a medium kind of blue. It's all right. Okay, this is quinacridone burnt scarlet. I think I like the idea of this color. I haven't found a way that I haven't used it in a place yet where I'm like, ooh, I need more of that. But let me see. I'm interested in seeing how this blends with the indenthrone. Oh, that makes like quite a nice gray. Okay, I also want to try, this is lavender. How does that look with that quinacridone burnt scarlet? Not too bad. Now, another thing you can do with these sticks, you can kind of create these splatters. Now, how does that mix with the indenthrone blue? How would I describe that? Like a little bit of a milky blue. So I don't think I would necessarily mix these together, but maybe that would look interesting up against each other. Undecided if I will use that. And then I've also got here Buff Titanium by Daniel Smith. Just a lovely kind of neutral color. It can be nice to mix like lighter shades. Like that's quite nice actually. The Buff Titanium with the quinacridone burnt scarlet's made that peachy color. I wonder how it looks mixed with a bit of the indenthrone blue. Like a grey blue color. What about the Buff Titanium with the cobalt teal blue? Oh, that's quite nice actually. Gives it like, makes it a little bit greenish, maybe. Okay, so what if my palette is indenthrone blue with the quinacridone burnt scarlet and cobalt teal blue, because I think that looks actually quite interesting together. I might do those colors. All right, I'm going to mix up some colors of those into some little dishes and I'll get started. I was going to make these colors up off camera, but then I figured I like watching other people do this to figure out how they use their art materials or watercolors. So I'll show you how I do it. So this is just a cheap pipette. I have quite a few of these, and I've just put some clean water into each of these little dishes. And then I just grab these sticks and I just start rubbing the sticks into the water. And it slowly mixes up paint. I'm just getting some of the softened bits of pigment off there, wiping them onto the sides of the dish, and I can always just mix them in with the paint. I just want to see how strong this is. It's quite light, so I might just keep going, get a bit more pigment in there. All right, let's see if that's how much stronger that might be. Yeah, I think that's a bit better. I don't know about you, but I tend to overcomplicate things sometimes. Like I was just scrolling around on my iPad looking for pictures, looking for different photos to use as inspiration for my painting. And then I look at them and they're complicated. And it just feels like, I don't know. Then I just psych myself out of doing anything. So I was like, nope, get off the iPad, Renee, just pick something and get some brush miles in. I drew a lot as a kid. I find I've got pretty good pencil control. And when I started using watercolor, I did a very intensive course on it. I found that the teacher instructed, she was wonderful, kind of instructed like Mr. Miyagi style for anyone who's seen The Karate Kid from, circa 1980s. Just using a catalyst wedge here to maybe change the marks around a little bit. And very much felt like I was kind of doing like wax on, wax off with like the same brush stroke over and over. And what I found is the more I did it, the more I worked through her exercises, it just felt like I had way more confidence than I realized, I think, in controlling my brush strokes. Adding some different colors here. I'm going to get another paper towel here to mop up some of this paint that's at the edge. Maybe I'll do some splatters of this one. Okay, so there's a decent background. I might just pop a little bit of this indent blue up here. Let gravity do its job. All right, so I'm going to pause and let this dry for a little bit. I don't want to speed it with a hairdryer or anything because I actually like some of this like cauliflowering that's happening here. And I kind of want to see how these colors go together to see if that inspires what I do next. Okay, while this one's drying, I don't want to just sit here and wait. And I also should know better by now than just starting a single page or a single painting, because then I can obsess too much over it and kind of overwork it and put too much into it. So while I wait for this to dry, which is looking quite interesting to me, I'm actually going to start another sketchbook spread. So this is a new sketchbook that I just started a week ago. I didn't film this one, but I was playing with abstract shapes there. And I think I will do another page here with these same colors that I'm using tonight. Just recycling some tape that I keep taped to the side of my table because I'm a weirdo and I don't like wasting things if I can avoid it. I feel like there's something about using dirty tape that it just helps prevent that black page syndrome, because my page already looks dirty even though it's perfectly clean. I feel like I want to start with a bigger brush. I might use another one of these dishes to mix up some of this Indian Throne blue with the quinacridone burnt scarlet here, because that made just such a cool neutral. I might just go in here with a bold shape there. I really have no idea what I'm doing. Just drop some stronger paint in there. This is, I wanted to just get the buff titanium, but I've got a little bit of that quinacridone burnt scarlet still on my brush. And I'm just going to blend this out with some water here. So I've got two hard edges there, so I feel like I want to soften up these edges a little bit. So this pop of that cobalt teal in here. What happens if I drag this across? I kind of like that mark that left though. I want to add more of that in somewhere. I just don't know where yet. Maybe just some of the bright indanthrone blue on its own might be interesting. This looks a little bit samey now. This kind of looks similar to here. I'll let gravity do some work there. It's kind of interesting. This wasn't what I intended at all tonight with getting brush marks. I was going to do patterns, but I am just going to keep going with this because I kind of like the way it's going. Some more paint in there. Just to make it a little bit stronger. Everything's quite big. I feel like I want to do some little shapes, like maybe repeat that down here a little bit. Just add some water down here. Just want to blend out this edge a little bit. Did not mean to do that, but I don't hate it. I feel like I'm getting a bit fiddly, so I'm going to go back to the other page. I'm really liking this area though, so I might bring some more blues into this when it's dry. Right, I certainly didn't leave much white space on here, and it's definitely very like mid-tony. What do I even want to do here? This is all very like organic shapes, and so I feel like I need to add something a little bit more like the opposite of that, more geometric. And then soften this edge with water. See how that works. Now this mix is the indanthrone blue with a little bit of the quinacridone burnt scarlet in it. Just making a small shape with hard edges all round. Here's where I'm getting my brush miles in, by the way, by practicing with precise brush strokes. That's feathering a little bit from the damp paper. It's okay. I'm going to do an even smaller one here. So I wonder what it would look like with this cobalt teal layered over top. I like that bleeding into there. It's barely touching. This is absolutely not what I plan on doing, but I am having a lot of fun. I feel like this is risky putting some of this quinacridone burnt scarlet in here as a big shape now, but actually I don't hate that. I do enjoy some line work. I'm going to put this aside before I get super fiddly with it. I might just neaten up this line. Clean off these edges. Oh. Kind of liking that. Now, I'm not 100% sure what to do next. I really like this overlap of blues here. And I like this pop of the cobalt teal. And I like the way these colors are blending together here. I think it makes me want to do a bigger layer of the cobalt teal. So I'm going to try that. I might need to mix up some more. That's another thing I haven't explored too much with these Daniel Smith watercolor sticks is the ability to make different kinds of marks. That's kind of interesting. I like that line work. I'm not putting like any pressure on this at all. I'm like barely touching the paper with it. Just holding it so lightly in my fingers. So I'm not really controlling where these lines go at all. And I'm worried I'm overdoing it, so I'm just going to let that be for a little bit. Although I'm wondering if a little bit of this indent thrown blue in here will it stay in those lines, I wonder? Just adding some darker values in here to contrast a little bit. I don't think I like that going all the way across there. But I am enjoying this indent thrown blue here. I don't know what I'm doing here at all. Maybe ruining it, maybe not. Oh boy. All right. Overworking it? Yeah, probably. Just trying to soften. That was quite a hard line there. I kind of just want to take the tape off this and see how badly I've ruined it, but it's all learning, isn't it? Can't always paint a masterpiece, or I don't know. None of this stuff's going to end up in a museum, so whatever. Just going to mop up some of this excess paint on the edge here. I feel like this one's nearly done, and I very much want to pull the tape off, but I also feel like it's very heavy weighted over this side. So I feel like I need a little bit of darkness up here. I don't have any straight lines or rectangles. I feel like that balances it out. Okay, I'm going to take the tape off this one. Let's see how this looks. This is Niji watercolor tape from Japan. I get it online from St. Louis Art Supply. I can reuse this tape over and over again, and it just always seems to hold a very clean edge. It ended up being quite a little interesting abstract, starting very loose in the beginning with these background colors and then laying in some dark, more geometric shapes and line work. So I guess I did get my brush miles in. Let's give you a better view here. And these are the swatches I was playing with when I was trying to figure out if these colors would go together. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, I really want to take this tape off And this watercolor is just bleeding under it. It's just not the greatest seal. You know what, I'm going to take it off anyway. And let's see how it's looking, because I don't really know what else to do with it at this point. I'm not going to reuse this tape again either, because it just hasn't sealed that well. It's all right. It's not great. Well, it's kind of interesting. I'll see how it dries and we'll come back. So here's the final two pieces in my sketchbook using the same paints, same color paints in both. And I had a lot of fun making these. They weren't exactly what I intended. I thought I was going to make some nice repetitive shapes and just practice my brush miles and things like that. But once I got into some of the loose background work, especially in my first one, and then thought about trying to leave some more light areas and white space and combining it with big shapes in this one, I feel like I learned a decent amount through these, just in terms of how am I combining colors, the balances of light versus dark, loose versus tight and controlled. Neither of those are a bad thing, by the way. I really enjoyed them. And so if you are inspired by this, grab some paints, whether you've got the sticks, whether you've got pans or tubes, pull out your watercolor paints and just have some fun mucking around. And it's only in your sketchbook, so it doesn't really matter. No one's going to see it except for you if you don't want them to. And so just use it as a place of learning. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video and have fun making some art. Bye.